Welcome to a playthrough of Cassino, Panzer Grenadier game here. Just doing a quick introduction video here to show you some of the details of this. We'll take a look at the map. We'll take a look at the counters. We'll take a look at the scenario we're going to be playing here too. The scenario we're going to be playing is called Red Bull Attacks the Barracks. And that's in relation to the barracks here just outside the town of Cassino that we'll talk about a little bit later. But what this is dealing with is basically it says, with the Anzio landings just a few days old, it was imperative that the Germans not be allowed to redeploy any troops from the Cassino area to the Anzio sector. With this in mind, the 34th U.S. 34th Division struck across the Rapido River north of Cassino in an attempt to gain a foothold on the Gustav line. So we're going to be attacking across the Rapido River here. It's flooded. It's going to be the 34th U.S. Division. That's the green units over there. And it's going to be the 134th Panzer Grenadier Regiment. That's the gray units across the river over there. So should be a pretty interesting one. This is about 18 turns, excuse me. It's a night game as well, so I'll give you an introduction to that with the special rules and everything going forward. But first, let's take a look at the map. I wanted to give you an overview of the Cassino map here. This is the northeast side of the map. The reason why I hesitate there a little bit, the map is a little bit different, but it kind of makes sense once you take a look at it, and I'll explain here in a minute. First thing here we'll notice is that I'm filming at a little awkward angle. The reason is I'm showing the map, as I zoom in here a little bit, with where the hexes are oriented. The hexes are actually oriented going north. This is a little bit different because if I'm looking north, I want to be angled with the map slightly askew here. If I recenter on the map, you can see there is how it's actually get played, and there's four maps going, one over here on this side, one up here on this side, this one, and this one over here. This one's actually folded a little bit, the top one that shows the actual mountain there, the Mastiff up there. I folded it back because we're not going to use all of that in this particular battle that we're playing. So I'm just going to reorient it back here. It gets rid of some of the glare too, so you get a double bonus. And we'll talk about a little bit about what you're seeing here. Beautiful maps. These were actually created from the images taken of the battle or around the time of the battle, and made from those photographs, aerial photographs from the area. So you can actually see the fields, woods there. Some of these are woods. That's woods right there, woods right there. Most of these others are fields, just open terrain, essentially. The small terrain features here really don't matter about anything like this field and anything. It doesn't matter. That's just open ground. So this is all kind of a southeasterly on the map here. Then we have big features like Cassino itself. It's right in there, and you can notice there's a couple places. I don't think you read it. That's Hotel des Roses and Hotel Continental, two famous hexes there. You got Castle Hill, of course, the monastery up here, which actually looks really nice. I'll try to zoom in here a little bit more. You can see the road going up there. You can see the hill levels over there as well. Really nice. Really one of the most beautiful maps of the the Panzer Grenadier from Avalanche Press system. Really quite nice. Then we'll zoom over here, and this is where actually the battle is going to take place here. We're along with the barracks area, and then a couple of hilltops here. Hilltop 56, and then up here 324 up here, signifying their heights over there as well. Then in the blue section here that you see, this is the flooded area of the Rapido, and that's all flooded out area within that region. That has some special terrain effects, which we're going to talk about there as well. Excuse the glare. There you can see the Rapido where it's not flooded out, down in that way, and off the board over in there. We also have, while I'm here, you can see this brown patch. That's the Gothic line up here, the first one. And that extends into the flooded areas. and you can see in our particular battle, it's filled with minefields. We'll talk about that when we get to the positional defenses here in a couple moments. And then stretches over there like that. There's one section here that was actually cleared for the attack across the Rapido. So that's a look at the map here. Like I said, beautiful map here with this. And let me now talk a little bit about some of the terrain features and some of the obstacles here that we'll be encountering with this particular attack. So the open ground here is just that. It's open ground, but it's muddy. So there is going to be some modifications. There's going to be an additional movement point for that. We'll talk about movement points when we get to counters. We have the flooded area, which is going to be a little bit more significant. We can actually move in there, but that's going to cost another point. Nothing above the mud. It's basically the same as mud. There's going to be restrictions on some of our vehicles, our tanks, moving in there as well. And just in general, getting across there, as well as some combat modifiers there as well too. We have our minefields that are in the flooded hexes. So think of these, these mines are on sticks, posts, whatever on there, but they're basically minefields that we'll have to potentially traverse if we don't go across the section that's already been opened up. But again, this is kind of a channeling effect to force us into here, and we'll talk strategy a little bit more later here. We have the barracks section that's going to be treated similar to towns with modifiers in there, nothing special with movement. Then we have the mountains. The mountains themselves will add a movement point to move up a level. Every time you move up a level, moving across a level is going to be fine. Moving up a level is going to cost points. And the special areas like here, 56, that's a mountain top. That also has some effects there too. Combat bonuses for the units that are in there. And it's a little bit tougher because it is a minor peak within the whole mountain range of the Cassino Mountains. So we'll have to take that into effect. You'll notice over here there's some red blocks that I've positioned. This is, and my finger, this is the edge of the board. We're not going to be going into Cassino itself. Everything to the right of this is going to be our area of battle in here. Mainly we're going to focus roughly from a line of where this last block is forward, because this is the only U.S. units that we're going to have coming on here. So they're already kind of in assault position. And then all the way up into here as well. You will notice that with the barracks and the hilltops there, those are actually victory hexes. We'll talk about those here in a minute. But that's what some of the things that the U.S. are going to actually push for to capture as part of their attack, as well as destroying German units in there as well. But those are victory hexes that we'll have to go in there for. And we'll talk more about how much they are and the values for them a little bit later. So there is some woods. I'm not sure if that's going to come into play. There's a little bit of woods here and a little bit of woods here. Sorry for the glare. Let you show in over there. And there are some roads over there as well that will come into play as part of the battle. But again, we have mud on here, so that's going to slow us down as we're moving across over here. From the American side, they're pretty much in flooded and muddy hexes, so they're going to have to deal with that as we go along here. So that's a little bit about our terrain. Just one last thing about the victory hexes here. These victory hexes up here, let me just pull out the book here just so that I can make sure I give you the right information on those hexes. So victory hexes for those, they are the barracks hexes. That's these right here. Those are worth 3 points per hex, so a total of 9 points for the Americans. And yes, it's only 2 points for the Germans. Okay, it's going to be a point victory system, which we'll discuss here a little bit later. For point 56, that's this hex right here, that high point. That's going to be 5 for the Americans and 3 for the Germans. And then the last one up here, 324, I mean 6 for the Americans, but they must control the barracks hex, and 4 for the Germans if they're controlling that at the end of the game. Basically, the point system is just going to be victory points accumulated at the end of the game for either units lost, or I should say not units, but steps lost, or victory locations captured in there. And whoever has the greatest amount of points will win. They've got to score 5 to 10 points more than the opponent to get a minor victory, and then 11 or greater is going to give you a major victory for those units. So that's a little bit about the victory conditions over there and the terrain, and next we'll move on to counters. So I wanted to talk about counters here for a little bit, and just the organization and what we're dealing with the battle. So these are elements of the 36th, or excuse me, 34th U.S. Division, the Texas Division, attacking across the Rapido, particularly the 133rd Infantry Regiment and 756 Tank Battalion, crossing the river. Now, just a breakdown of these units, if you've never played Panzer Grenadier before, just kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at. We've got individual units like this HMG, infantry units. On here, we have their firepower and range down at the bottom, and then at the top we have their movement. Very simple counters. Double-sided. Front side is full strength. Reverse side you can see here with the standard infantry unit, basically half strength, give or take, across there. We got steps. We'll have 2 steps to a unit. If they take a third step loss, they are they take a second step loss, excuse me, they're eliminated. Then we also have leaders, which is the core of the command system. And you can see the leaders there with the sergeant and lieutenant for the Americans. And they have some key statistics there too. The blue circle number is their morale. Their number to the left side is their firepower bonus. Right side is morale bonus that they can help with the units in terms of their morale recovery or staying together as part of a morale check, within there. Okay. Leaders are double-sided. Okay. Generally, what happens is you have a whole bunch of these units as part of the counter mix, and you will pick out a number of lieutenants, sergeants, captains, etc. For both sides, and you will randomly select them, and then you'll also flip them, just like you'd flip a coin, to figure out which characteristics you're going to use, because you can see on the other side of lieutenant, there's a different lieutenant, 800. This is not a reduced lieutenant. This is a separate lieutenant. Leaders don't have multiple steps. They're just one-step units, and they are eliminated in a little special way, which we'll talk about as we go through the play. So that's a look at the American units. The other thing we have is armored units, or vehicle units, I should say. Part of that is armored units. Kind of similar to what we saw with the infantry units. Down to the lower left, we have the strength and range. We have the movement in the upper right. But we also have 2 other sets of numbers. There's a 3 to the left. That is its armored strength. And then we have the yellow with red 5-6. That's its armor piercing firepower and range. We'll talk more about that when we get into the game and we're actually going through. You'll see with some of the other German units, they have some too, like this anti-tank gun, 75mm. Same thing, 6-5, regular firing, and then the armor piercing is 5-8 over there as well. We've got a Stug over here, and you can see their capabilities, a little bit tougher. And you can see I've got an infantry gun up here, which has some sort of firepower. It's not great, but it can potentially do some damage, as we'll talk about when we're playing. We'll also have some wagons for the Germans for moving those guns around if need be. and other units up there. We've got a mortar unit up here too. Notice there are white numbers, means they can fire indirectly. And then finally, we have a couple specialized units. First off, this red numbered unit, this FLM for flamethrower unit. That's going to become useful in close combat, and we'll see that later. And then we have our offboard artillery. The Germans have 2 modules of 16 firepower, and the Americans have 2 modules of 24 firepower. So that is all of our counters, and we'll see more of them, and I'll talk about the setup coming up next. So let's take a look at deployment and strategies. First, let's take a look at the Germans because they set up first. The Germans have set up their lines over here where we have 1 company of units, Grenadiers, over in here. And let's just move the pieces here so you can see what's where. So you can see over here on their left flank, we have 3 Grenadier platoons, and then we have 1 weapons team over here with a lieutenant and a captain. Now that should be enough firepower and enough leadership over there to be able to provide a pretty stout defense over there. Then back towards the center, we have another weapons team and another Grenadier with a couple of leaders, lieutenants over there. We'll find out what their actual ratings are later. Behind them, we have a infantry gun, 150 millimeter infantry gun, and a 75 millimeter anti-tank gun. That's here. Tank gun has a wagon, and there's also a strong point up here, which we don't know what it is at the moment, but we'll figure that out. And finally, in the barracks itself, we have another 150 millimeter gun, Stug, and a couple of wagons hanging around. We also have to the right a lieutenant with another Grenadier, just in case the U.S. gets a little thought of trying to get over here and cross these minefields, which I don't think is going to happen, but just setting up for a deployment that would be logical for the Germans. Germans don't know 100% exactly where it is, but you got to protect your flanks. And finally, back on the hill over there, there's some 81 millimeter mortars that will provide some support with the 20 firepower offboard artillery. So their strategy is basically going to be very simple. Hold them at the river line here where there's no mines. It's going to be tough, as we discussed, with the terrain. Terrain is flooded, and it is also Gothic line hexes, so that'll give some benefits to the Germans and detriments to the Americans. So they're going to hold out here. I think that's going to be the crossing because, like I said, the minefields here are going to be very tricky to eliminate. We've only got 1 engineering unit, and it would take them quite a bit of turns to eliminate 2 units if there were units in there. We don't know, but there's a good chance there's 1, 2, or 3, or nothing. And with two units in there, there's a good chance there's something in there. So I think we're just going to hold here and do a straight-on attack with them. Now, for the Americans, as we saw, they have quite a bit of infantry firepower. We've got a full company commanded by a lieutenant of just regular American infantry. And then next door to it, there's another one here. This one's actually got a machine gun with it as well. Plenty of leadership in there. They're going to be their first assault companies to try to get across the river. It's going to be tough. Then we have over here, we have another one, basically just all infantry units stacked up here, platoons. That's the maximum stacking limit, is 3 combat units. You can have any number of leaders. Then we have the supporting units over here, which is going to be a couple more platoons, plus there's our flame unit, our engineer flame unit, that will try to get in as soon as possible with these stacks. But I don't want them right in there first thing because we don't want them to take casualties. We also have our majors hex over here, which has our engineer for crossing the river. They'll get in there quickly. And then finally back here, we have mortar support with a lieutenant over there. We do have some tanks. We do have some Shermans, M4s, that we'll try to get in there as well to support. They can go into the flooded area. It's going to be tough getting them across the river. But if we get them close enough, they can provide fire support onto the German units over here and hopefully push across the river. So there are the setups for it, and that's right within there. The U.S. have to set up within this zone right here, within a couple hexes to them. The Germans set up across the Rapido over there. I think that's both good attack and good defense. So we'll have to see how it goes. Now for the strategy, as I said, we're just going to try to force the river. So you can see those arrows. That's where the U.S. is going to try to force the river. Try to get over any one of those points to establish a bridgehead. Hopefully we can knock out the captain and the heavy weapons teams over there in the center first so that they can get across. If they're pushed back and we get establish a bridgehead across there, we'll just have to deal with the other heavy machine gun teams and Grenadiers over there as well. But hopefully our reinforcements can get across and start dealing with them too. It will be interesting to see if the U.S. can do that. As I said with the Germans, they're just holding, so they're going to be kind of a little bit of a reactive force. They will attack as need be to keep them off the on the other side of the river, and hopefully hold out for them for the scenario. So that's a little bit of what the setup looks like, strategy, and you've seen all the map and everything else. So we're going to move on to the game itself and start off with the first turn. Oh, we didn't mention about the sequence of play. Pretty straightforward. There's an initiative phase. You'll figure out who goes first, and then basically it's just a back and forth, I go, you go type of thing, where units get picked, and if they're within range of leadership, they can move, attack, and do stuff. If they're not, they have a little bit more limited capabilities within there, and we'll go back and forth until everybody's all activated or both sides pass, and then we move on to the next turn. So it's pretty straightforward. Everything's going to be encapsulated within the activation itself. So I will go through that as those activations come up in the game itself. So we'll see more of the details when we get into it here. So that's where we are. Hopefully you like this introduction. Stay tuned for turn one and see how it goes. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you feel inclined. And we will catch you up with the next video.